So, a few weeks ago, I was on my way to work, and I was listening to Rage Against the Machine, which either amuses or confuses people when they find out that I'm a fan of that style of music. But the song that was playing was Renegades of Funk, and one of the lyrics references Malcolm X. And that reminded me of kind of a significant moment in my childhood life, which I'm sure does not apply to a lot of people, Malcolm X. But I want to talk about the most influential movie that I have never seen, and how Malcolm X became that most influential movie that I've never seen is the story of a third grade boy. So if we wind the clock back to the prehistoric era of Blockbuster video and VHS tapes, we'd have a family movie night. My parents would take me to Blockbuster Video, and we'd peruse what they had in stock to find a movie that we could all suffer through. And I would just kind of see what was on the shelves, and I kept coming across this Malcolm X movie. Big, stark black cover with a big white X in it. And it, for some reason, always caught my attention. I don't really know why. At the time I was big into comic books, so maybe I thought Malcolm X was an X-Man and wondered what his mutant power was. But it always caught my attention. And for those of you who aren't aware, Malcolm X is a movie starring Denzel Washington, directed by Spike Lee, about the man named Malcolm X. So around this time, we were given the opportunity to do a biography at school about someone famous. And I figured this was a good time to learn about who this Malcolm X fellow was. I submitted the idea to my teacher, and somehow it made it back to my mom, and she disagreed that it was a good idea to write a biography about Malcolm X. In her words, if I recall them correctly, from so many years ago, she felt that the biography should be about someone you can look up to and emulate. And whether or not Malcolm X is someone you can look up to is a conversation we can have another day. But it was a remarkable moment for me because it was the first time I expressed interest in learning about something and received pushback. That I had kind of finally come up against this boundary, this border or wall that my parents had defined for me of what is and is not acceptable to learn about. I don't know how I did it. Maybe it was through sheer force of will, that is a third-grader stubbornness rather. But my mom obeyed it, and I wrote a biography about him. And I can't remember exactly how it went, probably about how an anti-racism activist first sought less than desirable methods to achieve his goals, and then saw the light and embraced pacifism, and then was murdered. And I'm sure that is a story rife with spelling errors and historical inaccuracies, but I was in third grade, give me a break. Looking back on it, I'm not sure what the resistance was that my parents had to me learning about Malcolm X. I have to admit, I'm willing to bet a third grade white boy Christian was not high on the list of recruitment for the Nation of Islam. So I think the likelihood of me running off and joining them was pretty low. This was kind of an experience that played itself a number of times throughout my childhood. I've expressed interest in a tarot deck at a bookstore, and my dad shut me down because I'm fairly certain he thought I would put me in Congress with the devil. I expressed interest in learning about Islam in college because I figured there's no point remaining ignorant about one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing religion in the world, and there was some threats of withdrawal of financial support for college. But that moment is the earliest time I remember kind of having that experience of running up against what my parents thought was and was not acceptable for me to learn. And it's kind of stuck with me throughout my whole life, in the form of a lesson that when those around us, whether they be kids, siblings, or friends, family, express an interest in something that we either are unfamiliar with or are uncomfortable with, the wrong answer is to tell them, no, you can't learn about that. That is not something you should know about. Because what that ultimately is someone is wishing to expand their knowledge about the world to experiences beyond their own, to perspectives beyond their own. And that's an opportunity to kind of maybe yourself learn about those experiences and hopefully provide a constructive context in which to learn those things. But when you just shut it down, when you tell someone you can't know about that, what you're doing is either you're kind of snuffing out that light within them, that candle that desires to burn brightly and learn about the world around them, or you're forcing them onto a path where they have to go behind your back and learn about it despite whatever you tell them. It's a sheer force of authority and not an actual given reason of why they should not learn about that. So, like I said, in conclusion, if a kid comes up to you and says, I want to learn about something, and you feel that it may not be the most productive thing for them to learn about, go on the journey with them, kind of learn about it with them. Help them along that journey to learn about it, and at the very least, you can help provide the right context for them to learn about that thing and to grow as an individual beyond the immediate sphere, social sphere, and their own bank of experiences. Thank you.